The richest people barely work for their money. Their money works for them, quietly growing while they sleep. And the secret is not that they work harder than you. It is that they own something you may not. It is 3 a.m, and a very rich man is fast asleep. He has answered no messages. He has made no calls. And yet, somewhere on the other side of the world, his fortune is quietly growing larger. This is the strange truth about the wealthy. Most of their money does not come from work. It comes from the things they own, and those things keep growing while their owner does nothing at all, not even in his sleep. Now travel across the same city to a different building at the very same hour. A worker arrives for the night shift. He hangs up his coat, punches a card into a clock, and begins to trade his hours for money. Here is the difference that shapes everything. The worker is paid only for the hours he is awake and moving. The moment he stops, the wage stops too. His money never grows on its own. It arrives hour by hour, and only while he labors. So 2 people sleep tonight, and only one of them is being paid for it. The reason is not that the rich man works harder. Very often, he works far less. The reason is that he owns something the worker does not. That single thing is the whole secret of this story. What is it exactly? What can a person own that keeps making money while they rest? Over the next chapters, we are going to name it and show you exactly how it works. And to prove how powerful it is, let me tell you about one man. He died more than 200 years ago. His body has been in the ground all that time, and yet, every single year since, he has grown a little richer. His name comes later. The first kind of money is the one almost everyone knows. You earn it. You give your hours, and at the end of the week or the month, a payment arrives. It feels solid. It feels fair. But watch what happens to it. Before you ever hold it, tax takes a large bite. Most of the rest goes on rent, food, and getting through the month. And the moment you stop working, this money stops too. Now, the second kind of money. This is money that owns things, a share of a business, a piece of land, a building people pay to use. And it does something the first kind never does. It grows while you do nothing at all. While you eat, while you rest, while you sleep, the business earns, the rent comes in, the land rises in value. The money works a shift you never clock into. And here is the quiet advantage most people never notice. Owned money is treated far more gently by the taxman. And when your shares rise in value, that gain is not taxed at all until the day you choose to sell. So look back across the years, and a pattern appears. The people who pulled far ahead of everyone else were almost never the ones who worked the hardest. They were the owners, the ones who held things that grow. But that only deepens the mystery. How does something that grows so slowly turn into wealth so vast it feels unreal? Hidden inside that ownership is a single engine. Its name is compound interest. And once you see how it works, you can never unsee it. Here is the whole engine in one breath. You put money to work, and it earns a little extra. Then that little extra gets added to your money, and now the extra earns extra too. This is compound interest, returns stacking on top of returns, over and over. Now you need a way to feel this without heavy math. So here is a simple trick people have used for centuries, the rule of 72. At 7% a year, your money roughly doubles every 10 years. At 10%, it doubles in about 7. Let us walk one number through a whole life. Start with $10,000, growing at 10% a year. After 7 years, it is about $20,000. Your first $10,000 quietly turned into 2. Keep going. 21 years in, that same $10,000 has grown to around $74,000. You have added nothing new. You simply left it alone, and it kept doubling on itself. Now watch what happens by year 35. That single $10,000 has swelled to nearly $300,000. Same money. End quote. Same starting point, just more time. But here is the twist that makes this feel like magic. If you draw those numbers as a line, It stays flat and dull for years. You would swear it is barely moving. Then, near the end, the line suddenly bends and shoots almost straight up. Most of the growth arrives at the very end. The boring years were not wasted, they were loading the spring. And that is the cruel and beautiful secret of compounding. The people who win are almost never the ones who work hardest. They are the ones who wait longest. Picture two ordinary people. Neither is rich. Each one decides to set aside the same amount, $5,000 a year, and to keep doing it for 30 years straight. Same discipline, same sacrifice. The first person plays it safe. They keep every dollar as plain cash, tucked away, untouched. After 30 years, the pile is exactly what they put in, $150,000. A straight line, no more, no less. The second person takes the very same $5,000 a year, but instead of holding it, they buy a small piece of something that grows at 7%. Same money, same years. Their pile ends at around $500,000. Sit with that for a moment. Two people, identical effort, identical years of going without. One finishes with $150,000, the other with nearly $500,000. The gap between them, about $350,000, was not earned by working harder. The only difference was owning versus holding. One let their money sit still. The other let it work while they slept. Same sweat, wildly different endings, and the deciding factor was never effort. Now here is the truth that feels almost unfair. Someone who invests early for just 10 years and then stops entirely can still finish ahead of someone who invests faithfully for 35 years, but who started a single decade too late. So, the most powerful ingredient in this whole formula is not income and not effort. It is time. Which raises a question that sounds almost mad. What happens if you give compounding not a lifetime, but 2 full centuries? The year is 1790. In Philadelphia, an old man near the end of his life is writing something unusual into his will. Not a gift for his children, but a bet placed on time itself, aimed at people who had not yet been born. The old man was Benjamin Franklin. He left about 1,000 pounds each, only a few $1,000s in today's terms, to the cities of Boston and Philadelphia. His instruction was strange and simple. Do not spend it. Let it grow for 200 years. Then the centuries began to roll. Children were born who never met him. They grew, they worked their whole lives, they grew old and died, and behind all of it, quietly, in the background of every one of those lifetimes, Franklin's small gift kept growing. The money touched things Franklin would never see. It was lent out, put to work, folded back in, year after year, through wars and booms and hard times, a fund with no owner alive to manage it, simply doing what growing money does. Then came the marker Franklin had set, 1,990, 200 years exactly. Those tiny sums had swelled into hundreds of thousands of dollars, many, many times the original gift. Sit with what that means. A man who had been dead for 200 years had grown richer every single year of those 2 centuries. He answered no letters. He made no decisions. He did nothing at all because he no longer could. That was the whole point of his experiment. Franklin proved you do not have to be alive or working or even present. You only have to own something that grows and give it enough time. Which forces the real question this story has been circling all along. If 2 centuries can do that from beyond the grave, what has ownership been doing, quietly, to the living? Move the clock forward. In the town of Omaha, a boy named Warren Buffett, born in 1930, was buying his first small pieces of businesses before he was out of his early 20s. But here is the move that mattered. He did not spend what his ownership earned. He fed it back in letting each year's gains buy still more for over 50 years until the pile fed on itself, like a snowball rolling downhill and growing as it went. Now zoom all the way out past any one man, to the raw numbers of history. Money put into businesses and land has often grown somewhere around 6 to 10% a year, steady, quiet, year after year. Now, look at the other side. The pay of ordinary workers has often risen closer to only 1 to 3% a year, a slow, straight line that inches along but never curves upward. And that gap is the whole story. The wealthy do not need their returns to live on. So, they put them straight back to work, and the snowball grows both bigger and faster. The worker cannot. Every wage that arrives must go out again, for rent, for food, for keeping the lights on. There is nothing left over to compound. So the wheel that spins for the owner never even starts turning for the earner. Here is the hopeful part. The math does not care who you are. Compounding treats $10 exactly the way it treats 10 million. It is not a secret power locked away for the wealthy. But this same force has a dark mirror. It runs just as smoothly in reverse. High-interest debt grows on top of itself in exactly the way an investment grows for the owner. Only now, the direction points down. Watch the reverse snowball. At 20% interest, an unpaid $1,000 does not stay $1,000. In just 5 years, it can swell past $2,500. The same curve you admired, now closing around you. So here is the divide, laid bare. The wealthy tend to sit on the owning side of this math, where every year adds to them. Many others are trapped on the paying side, where every year takes away. And the space between the two widens with time. So, what actually closes the gap? Not doubling your hours. That only lifts a wage in a slow, straight line. The move that changes everything is owning even a small slice of something that grows, starting early, staying steady, and refusing to feed the debt that compounds the other way. So, return with me to where this began. The dark bedroom, the sleeping owner, the world outside ticking upward without him. Now you know the quiet truth humming under it all. He isn't lucky. He simply owns something that never clocks out. A wage feeds you today, and only today. Ownership feeds you for decades, long after your hands have stopped moving the way one small gift kept growing, for 2 full centuries after the man who left it was gone. To step off the treadmill, you don't need to work more hours. You give even a small part of your money, a job, one it keeps doing at your desk, at your dinner table, and yes, while you sleep. That is the whole quiet answer. Not harder work, not longer days, just a small slice of something that grows, given the one thing it needs most time. Here is the honest and hopeful part. The math does not care who you are. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe. There is always another one worth telling.